Hey everyone, X-Ray441 here. Just wanted to let you know you should stay tuned until the end of this episode for a special giveaway to commemorate our 2000th play of our podcast, as well as the return of Tess to the tower. So check us out at the end to find out what you can win. Thanks. Welcome back to Ghost Stories, a Destiny podcast. Today is October 13th, 2015, and this is our third installment of the Ghost Whispers kind of mini episodes or short stories. So we had a pretty interesting thing happen today. We're going to be talking about our favorite ex missing awoken darling, Tess Everis, and the new Eververse Trading Company. So she's back in the tower in her old spot, and we've also got a little bit of a new character entering the world of Destiny, and this would be her eccentric uncle, Fenchurch Everis. So we're going to talk a bit about him too. Today we are here with dropslash.
Hello there.
And BetaChieftain.
What's up?
And I am X-Ray441. So Tess is back, and what an exciting day! Everyone missed her. She left just prior. I think it was a couple weeks before the Taken King dropped. And she's back, and she's got some fun stuff. So what do you guys think about that?
I don't think it's.
Go ahead. All right. I'll go. I honestly haven't even had time to. We've been doing so many podcasts lately. I haven't played the game, I think, in a week. But I don't know how I feel about all the the microtransactions. But I'm loving the fact that Destiny and Bungie dropped a bunch of lore today, and that we didn't have to wait for a full expansion to come out. So I'm really I'm liking this idea that they can kind of add more grimoire and new characters as they go in patches. So I'm loving that kind of new development. But otherwise, I don't have an opinion yet on the Eververse Trading Company.
Well, I think it's safe to say that Tess was sorely missed. She seems to be a favorite among a huge number of Guardians, so it's nice to have her back.
Pretty easy on the eyes too. So if you like the Awoken, I guess.
At the same time, though, this is interesting lore-wise because we were given a bunch of new lore and background on Tess and her quote-unquote uncle here. But at the same time, her role in-game now is almost, it's too meta to be lore related. Like how does a person sell gestures? Like that's not like a real thing.
Right.
Well, maybe she teaches you the gesture. She's training you.
As new,
you gotta pay her. You're paying her
as
for
new
goods
young
and
Guardians. We've never mastered the slow clap.
We've never mastered. Well, it would be kind of hilarious to walk up to that booth and be like, Tess, teach me the Carlton. I must know.
Yeah, and that's what everyone wants. So, and so I want to mention one more thing, just about kind of her. I guess it's not a kiosk, but her stand that I saw and noticed myself was that after you can buy these emotes and you have a certain amount of time you can kind of return them and get your money back. Or your silver back, and we'll talk about the silver here in a second. But it also had a little thing that said that consumable items are not able to be returned. So that led me to believe that she and her uncle may be finding some consumables that we'll be able to purchase from her later down the road. I don't know. Maybe it's just again me maybe reaching or something, but that would be interesting. I don't know what that would be, but it could be there. So
Probably the tea that a Fenchurch was drinking on Jupiter.
you get to walk around with a little teacup.
Yeah, probably the tea.
Well, what is that? So let's talk about this a little bit. So give us a little background on Tess, Drop, if you would please.
Well, now we know that Tess was born. She was born in the city, the sort of the last city here, and that her parents fled the reef. Maybe that was possibly during the Reef Wars. We're not sure. I'm not sure how people flee the reef. I mean, we tried so hard to get there. I guess grass is always greener. And that poses an interesting question. This is something I think we've talked about in the past a little bit. Is how come there's awoken in the city and in the tower? Where did they come from? Why haven't they gone back to the reef? Are they even allowed to? So, and this very much seems like now we have actual confirmation that there are awoken who leave the reef for the city and the tower and choose to make their homes there, rather than live in the reef. Whether who knows, ideological differences with the queen or a better view or whatever, we don't know.
So one of the things that they also mentioned in the new information is that she one of her most prized possessions, so something really kind of personal about her, is that she has this silver coin, which is a new currency that she accepts for her, again, goods and services, and it belonged to her reef-born grandmother. So that's interesting. So what do we know about these coins, Beta?
Yeah, so the silver, it's something from before the collapse. Supposedly, the colonies that were out in the reef area before the collapse, they traded in this silver. It was kind of a golden age currency. And it's described as being engram-like, so it can kind of contain information, and that all these pieces of silver can be essentially signed with a key. And these keys pertain to individual people. And so, it kind of... we don't know Tess's coin, we don't know who signed it. We know that her grandmother had it, but it doesn't really say who signed it. But that's an interesting point, because later when she meets this new Guardian Fenchurch, she finds that he and her each have a silver coin signed by the same person, whoever that was. And so they like to believe that they may be related.
Now, what I thought was interesting about Fenchurch's coin is, it again, kind of like Tess, must have some. He's got the same kind of, from what I gather, the same kind of just kind of bond with this coin. It's tying him to something, so much so that he wears it around his neck. I think it said in some of that information. So his coin is hanging around his neck, and Tess has kept hers from her grandmother. So it means something to them. And I guess the fact that they both have the same signature, which is something else we found out, is what really tied them together. So that's so neat.
Yeah, and what's interesting too is in the grimoire, it describes how Fenchurch found a silver coin. I'm under the assumption that it's the same one that he's wearing. Maybe it was a different one, but he found the silver coin on Mars, actually. He says that his ghost woke him up, and when he was kind of sitting there looking around the sand, he noticed this silver coin on the ground, and so he picked it up. And so I'm under the impression that that's describing the one he currently wears, but maybe, it's a different one. But it kind of goes to show, too, that, really there might be a family connection between Tess and Fenchurch, but there really might not be. It's just kind of they've chosen to establish this friendship and kind of establish this family bond regardless.
Right, and so I think something else that just informational purposes is that Fenchurch's ghost, we know, is named Neville, which is also a very cool name, in my opinion. And
I think that's the first named ghost. I can't recall any other ghosts so far in the story that we know a name of.
Yeah.
other than
that's...
Dinklebot.
I don't think that counts in the lore, but we'll stick with it. So all right, so Tess comes back now after leaving for a little while, and so what has she been doing? Drop, where has she been?
Well, it seems like Tess has been out and about looking to start a new business venture with her uncle, which seems weird because he seems like a very eccentric guy, and I'm not sure I'd want to go in business with this dude. So yeah, I mean, they have this shared history, this mystery between them with this silver coin and the key that's signed between them, and that relationship starts to form. And I guess at some point, Tess was like, you know what, I wanna start a better business than whatever she was doing in that little tiny booth in the tower, keeping those ghosts company and getting our special deliveries for us. So she went out and scattered around and I guess put together a business proposal and asked for a loan from the bank in the city. I'm not sure what it takes to open a new business in the tower, but yeah, so she crossed paths with Fen and they started talking about ideas, and it seems like Fen is out all over the place collecting weird stuff and possibly sending that stuff back. It could be valuable to folks in the tower, which is very Zur-like, it seems. So, hey, it seems like a good idea. He'll go out and collect weird stuff, and Tess will sell it back to us at the tower. So that was the plan that came together, and that's where she's been, and now she's back.
Now she's back, yeah, and she brought some stuff with her. She brought back a handful of postcards from Fenchurch. And so in those cards, we found out some pretty interesting information about the Eververse Trading Company, like the founded date. I think what it says is it was the founded date is the 742nd moon of the 17th subcycle of the Traveler's Light. Now, that doesn't sound like much, but in the lore world, that really helps to add to the timeline and give us an idea of when kind of now is, because we're assuming that Tess started this business while she was away, so within the past month, and so that helps us to know a little bit about where we're at.
Right. Well, sadly, you'd think it would help, but it hasn't really helped at all, unfortunately. So the 704. Go ahead, drop.
This is something that happens a lot as you dig through the lore and look for time where we'll get solid numbers and we'll get great references, but then they'll inject one weird thing that doesn't mean anything to anyone, and it totally throws off your ability to perceive or the time or what those numbers could actually mean.
Right. So in this case, we have 742 moons, and that's easy. So we're like, okay, well, if there's about 12.3 or 12.4 full moons per year, do some math, and so we can say, all right, it's been about 60 years. So that's easy. But then the problem is we have this sub-cycle, which means nothing. And so we know there's solar cycles, but those tend to average closer to like 11 years. And so that doesn't really make sense. 60 years is more than 11. And so you're kind of like, well, we can't be within a sub-cycle, and so the math isn't lining up. So all we really know is that we're 60 years into the 17th sub-cycle. And if we could figure out how long a sub-cycle is, we could date this all the way back, to when the Traveler showed up. But unfortunately, we haven't figured that out yet.
So all you listeners that are good at maths, figure this out and let us know.
Yeah. If sub-cycle means anything to you, please help.
Yeah, so it gives us, but it's still, I still think it could be useful. I mean, maybe not right this second, I mean, there could be a time when they explain what a sub-cycle is, and if so, then boom, everything might fall into line and give us this big kind of, oh, okay, now we know what's going on, or not, who knows. So we've got this Fenchurch guy, right? Her uncle, quote unquote, and we know that he is an awoken guardian, and he's described as an explorer, an artist, a designer, and he's kind of just out there doing what he wants. It seems like he's just kind of all over the place. According to his postcards, he kind of goes out and hangs out and has tea and does his thing, and that's it. And I guess we don't. I don't know. We know a little bit about him, and you can kind of assume that he's eccentric and just by the way he talks and these postcards, and definitely take a look at him if you're interested, because they seem to tell a lot about his personality. And I don't know how do we want to talk about the postcards a little more, kind of in depth?
Yeah, we can summarize real quick. What new information we learned from them. And to anyone looking, they're on the Bungie site. If you go to the Destiny tab, where kind of the armory is, there's a new Eververse section, and the postcards are all down there and in high definition. But so we got 4 postcards. They all have some sketches and artwork on the front, which we assumed have been done by Fenchurch himself. And then, so going through them, we have one that kind of describes how he was abandoned on the red planet, which I'm assuming means Mars. And we don't learn a lot there, other than he was exploring on Mars, and he, so no new lore stuff there. Then the interesting one that we've kind of referred to a bunch of times is this letter where, so if you're looking at the postcards, it's the one with the picture of the astronaut or the cosmonaut who isn't faring too well out in space.
Yeah,
and
he looks a little rough.
Yeah, and so he says that he's on his way to Jupiter for tea. And so that one's just so interesting. And to me, it's interesting because first off, it means, somewhere on Jupiter, there's someone cultured enough to want tea. So, we always kind of consider Jupiter to be this abandoned planet and, out in the boonies in the dark zone. But it's like, maybe not. Maybe there's some type of culture still surviving out there that we don't even know about.
Yeah. And so that brings us to another card.
And actually, real quick, while you're pulling it up, the one other interesting lore piece we get from that letter is that he is also not welcome in the tower. He apparently he did something to Zavala. He either said something or did something to the point where basically Zavala kicked him out of the tower. So another warlock band.
Those warlocks, man. And you know what? That actually is a good point about the warlocks, because they're very inquisitive and want to know and explore and learn, and maybe that's just his nature. Maybe that's why he's out there doing all this stuff. So there's another one that's pretty interesting, because he said he's kind of in this place where he can't be himself, so he's for lack of a better term, kind of undercover or masquerading by the request of his ghost. And this is where I think we found out his ghost's name. He actually says, I was more confident in my abilities to blend in, as it were. My dear ghost Neville insisted I take precautions, and those precautions were kind of masquerading as something else. And so he just basically tells Tess that he's having a good time, and and that's about it. And then we get to the fourth one, that and which one is that? That's the one where he's on Jupiter. I believe.
It's the one where,
right?
The card itself doesn't say he's on Jupiter, but the picture on the front shows him standing having tea. So we're kind of currently operating under the assumption that he's on Jupiter, because he mentioned earlier that he was going to Jupiter for tea.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And it's kind of funny. There's what look to be kind of birds flying there. Now they're not blackbirds, so we don't, I guess, want to assume that they're from the prince. But
we know Drop loves his birds.
I know, that's why I mentioned it. And this fourth one is definitely interesting, because he mentions that there is a group of possible survivors on Jupiter.
Well, we assume Jupiter.
We assume Jupiter, right. Just based on his having tea on Jupiter. But let me see if I can find this line here. I was searching among the ruins when I came across a small tribe of survivors making a home in the rubble. Curious wretches, they are so afraid of being discovered by the keen auditory senses of their enemies that they communicate almost entirely in gestures. So whatever this tribe of survivors is, they're scared of something and they're hiding. I don't know that we can
right, and so
really know what that is. But...
And it's one of those where if they're on any other planet, it could be probably not the Cabal. I don't think they're very, they don't hear very well, necessarily. And but I always kind of picture the Hive, no matter how quiet you are, the Hive always seem to know you're there.
Yeah.
The Fallen too, so it could be one of those. Or if he is on Jupiter, this could be a totally different alien race that we don't know about yet.
Right. And so he said he was there for several days, and that's about it. Now, something else to mention about each one of these cards that again I found kind of interesting myself, and I don't know if you noticed this, but the way he signs each one, let me see if I can get all these in the line here. We've got yours in light, Fenchurch. Or no, sorry, he signs this to Tess, so he's like yours in light.
Yeah,
Tess
he describes himself as like the inspired uncle.
Oh, there it is. There, yeah. Your ever loving uncle,
the pensive uncle, and the altruistic uncle, which I find kind of funny because maybe he thinks he's doing good, but like, hey, we're taking on the Taken, and like,
right,
and killing Oryx, and he's just kind of out wandering, having tea.
Yeah.
But
So yeah, that's Fenchurch. I mean, he's, like I said, just pretty eccentric and out there doing what he wants.
Yeah, and I think that's it for kind of as a short episode. That's what we learned today. But it's not a lot, but it is interesting, and it opens some possible future doors, some hope that we may get to Jupiter or Europa or Titan sometime soon, which would be awesome.
Right. So, all right. Well, I guess that about wraps it up for this third episode of our Ghost Whispers. Thanks for tuning in, and if you need to get a hold of us, you can reach us on Twitter at dghoststories, or you can email us at destinyghoststories@gmail.com. And that's it. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. See ya.
Well, if you enjoyed that episode and want to score yourself a fat sack of silver, I need you to answer the following question. In episode 1 of Ghost Stories, what did Scooby Deezy say was his favorite piece of lore from Destiny? What I need you to do now is email us at destinyghoststories@gmail.com. Give us your gamertag or PSN ID, along with your favorite class to play as and your favorite bit of lore. And we will randomly select a winner that we will announce at the beginning of episode 3 next week. Thanks.